Welcome to the Ernest Faison Show. I am your host, Ernest Faison. I think this show is going to be probably one of the deepest shows I've done because I have some American Indian royalty on my show. I have Sagamore, William Guy. Thank you so much for being on the show.
My pleasure to be here.
And Sachem, Two Hawks. Thank you for being on the show.
Good to be here as well.
Yes, I couldn't wait to get you gentlemen on because it was really, really difficult, first of all, to nail down the Sagamore. You just are not just going to roll up on a Sagamore and ask him to be on your TV show, especially a young whippersnapper like Ernest, like this right here. So, Sagamore Guy, please explain and give us some of your pedigree as far as what you stand for.
I'd be happy to do that. My name is Po Wa'api Park, which is Winds of Thunder in my language. I am the 10th generation great-grandson of the Massasoit Osamiquin, who welcomed the Pilgrims to this country. I am the 9th generation great-grandson of Po Metacom. You may know him historically as King Philip of the King Philip Wars. And I'm the 6th generation great-grandson of Simeon Simon, who was George Washington's hand-picked bodyguard, who served with George Washington through the Revolutionary War, and he was in the boat with George Washington crossing the Delaware. That Indian in the boat is Simeon Simon. He was also in the bicentennial corner of the town of Griswold, Connecticut, 200 years as a country, and he was with George Washington at Valley Forge. The reason why I mentioned Simeon Simon, because this is King Philip's great-grandson, so this is my line coming down on my mother's side. I am the Sagamore of the tribe, and this is something that they gave me the title of in the year 2007. Before that, I was a Sachem. Sagamore is over the chiefs of the tribe. He has a few chiefs under him.
So you're the big chief.
So he's the chief of the chief. Actually, you could be a Grand Sachem. And in our tribe, we had a Massasoit, but the title of Massasoit, we laid to rest with our creator. And we said there would be no more Massasoit. So as high as you can go in my tribe would be Grand Sachem or Sagamore.
Very, very interesting. And Sachem, Two Hawks.
Yes, sir.
Can you give us a little bit of information concerning yourself?
Sure. So I am from the Meshipaug Nahigansa people. And for those who are familiar with the city of Providence, there's a pond right behind this studio. That is Meshipaug Pond. So if you look at the original quote-unquote deed to the city of Providence, you'll find that there are 3 boundaries. The Great Hill at New Conconnet, the Falls at Patuxet, and the town of Meshipaug. So there was a village right over in this area. My people have been up in this area since time immemorial. So that's where the Meshipaug Nahigansa people come from. In terms of my particular title, I am what they would call a Sachem, as the Sagamore just mentioned, chief of my people. And I'm a double descendant from Chief Brister Michael, who was the chief in 1881 when the Narragansett Indian tribe got illegally detribalized by the state of Rhode Island. I'm the great-grandson of Chief George Red Fox Watson, who was the chief who led the Narragansett Indian tribe to federal recognition in 1983 when they got it. And then those lines go all the way back to my Antinomi and Canonicus, who were the chiefs who met the Europeans when European colonial contact took place.
So because with the Narragansett, you have this bloodline,
yes.
Is it safe to say that people in your tribe, do they receive federal recognition? Do they get free housing? Do they get free college?
Not Meshipaug. The federally recognized Narragansett Indian tribe does have some of those resources going on because of their federal recognition relationship, but we have no interest in being federally recognized by the United States government. So we're in a different space than they are. But yes, those are some of the resources and supports that federally recognized tribes do get, and a lot of non-federally recognized tribes who are in the position that we are, that the U.S. knows who they are, they also get funding and support.
Right. So I see you came bearing gifts with your head garb. What is the significance of some of these feathers?
Sure. You want to go first?
Sure.
Okay, so I have red tail, all of my hawk feathers are red tail hawks, but the 12 I have up here come from the tail itself, and then the brown ones come from the wing. In our culture, the hawk was a very significant bird. It was usually feathers were given as gifts of honor or acknowledgement. So to have a bunch of hawk feathers is, And then I have 4 turkey feathers in there as well, because we are Eastern Woodlands people and there were turkeys in this region. You can usually tell where an individual is from based upon their regalia, and usually where a chief's from based upon the style of headdress that they have.
Very, very interesting. And Sagamore Guy.
Mine is, this particular headdress is made of turkey feathers, which you said there were a lot of wild turkeys here, so we made abundant use of the turkey feathers. I have another bonnet, which is my chief's bonnet, which has white turkey feathers, and there are 2 red tips. And the 2 red tips, red tip would be a Sachem, 2 red tips would be a Sagamore, and 3 red tips would be a Massasoit. And we laid the title of Massasoit to rest with our creator, so there will never be another bonnet in Poconoke with 3 red tips on it.
Very, very interesting. You are watching the Ernest Faison Show. I am your host, Ernest Faison. I'm joined by Native American or American Indian royalty. Yes, Sagamore and 2 hawks. They're giving us some education that probably a lot of you people out there didn't know. And I'm part Lumbian as well, so this is near and dear to my heart. So I could not wait for these gentlemen to be on, and it's just a blessing and an honor. And I'd like to give a shout out to Carter, your nephew,
Yes.
for putting that together. As we move forward, you were saying something about there is an affiliation with the Aboriginal tribe, etc. Can you expound a little bit more as far as the bloodline and what exactly you were getting at in the green room when we were talking?
It's about the fauna.
Yes.
Well, I think more just the status of Aborigines and why we were associating ourselves with that as opposed to.
Okay. Yes. Okay. All right. Great. Yes. We've discovered, that being American Aborigine, which is what the law provides for us under, we were ignorant of the fact that we were provided for. We come under Article 3 of the Constitution. The federal government,
right here.
The federal government has sold the Indians a bill of goods, thinking that they had to be federally recognized, but we were already federally recognized. When you look at these laws, a lot of times they'll start off, they'll talk about the American Indian or the American Aborigine, they'll talk about the Alaskan Native, and then down the line in that first paragraph, they'll start talking about the Native American. Well, the Native American are the federally recognized tribes. And what the federal government has done is they've actually taken away their Aboriginal status by recognizing them as Native Americans. They've actually made them a regular citizen, just like any other citizen in the United States.
And that is why you distinguish between the American Indian and the Native American.
Right, because if you were born in this country, you're a Native American.
Yeah.
You don't have to be Indian to be
You're a native, just as the word
Native American. That's it.
Take it verbatim.
So basically what they did is they went from a class capital C citizen as an American Aborigine. We are categorized as capital C citizens to a small c citizen, just like everyone else in this country.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the goals and the agenda of colonization. When we say Aborigine, most people immediately, their mind goes to Australia.
Which I was getting at.
Absolutely.
And I told these gentlemen in the green room that I've lived over in Australia.
Sure.
And I've spoken to original Australian people, the Aborigines. And so you were putting us, the spin on actually what's going on.
Sure. Well, basically, Aborigine just means of the original people. So that's why they're called Australian Aborigine, because they're of the original people of Australia.
Okay.
So who is the original? But indigenous speaks in general to original people. When you speak Aboriginal, you're speaking to a specific place. So I can be an indigenous person, but I'm not Aboriginal to everywhere.
I got it.
I'm Aboriginal to these lands that they're now calling Rhode Island.
Okay.
So when we say that we're American Aborigine, that's the point that we're getting across. But we also know that some people, just because of stereotypes and perspectives, are going to be like, well, what does that mean? So we actually utilize the more common term of an American Indian, because an Indian is just a original inhabitant of the lands of America. That's the title that they gave to us. They called us Indians. That's not who I am. I'm a Meshipog Nahigantic. He's a Pokanoket. But when you get into sort of classifications, we're most probably identified as American Indians if people can't wrap their mind around the American Aborigine status.
Okay. So as we move forward, point well taken, and
Yes.
I appreciate you expounding upon that. Fauna, what exactly is the significance of fauna? I want to highlight that because I know that's near and dear to both of you gentlemen's hearts.
Sure.
Well, fauna is we actually Massachusetts Narragansett, the Poconoket tribe, and the Sandhill Lenape are the original chartered members of the fauna. And we formed this organization because we found that a lot of the laws that were written, like I said before, were there for us, but we were unaware of them. So in order to take, and we formed this here in order to take and educate our people that are not federally recognized, that there are provisions for us in this Constitution, and that we just, we want to take and educate them and make them aware that, you know, we do have rights, and we never gave up any of our Aboriginal rights. And so basically, this is why we formed fauna, to take and help the non-federally recognized tribes.
And fauna, it's a confederation of nations, so that's the other thing we want to get across too. We get a lot of individual people reaching out and saying, hey, can you help me with this and help me with that? And our response consistently has to be, fauna is an institution that was created for nations. We don't deal individual to you know. So
There's a big difference there.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Tremendous difference.
Absolutely.
Not individual, nations.
Nations.
And you
So
have to be of
yes.
descent.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we get into is that we don't have any authority as fauna to represent all indigenous folks. That we don't have that power. So that's not what we do. We represent the nations that have come together with us to address these issues. And then what we say to other nations that are in similar situations is, look, if you're meeting the criteria, and the criteria for fauna is you have to have a bloodline, heritage, and connection to specific lands, and you have to be a pre-colonial nation. So you can't be something that came about as a result of colonization. You have to have been around prior to, and this is just an impact on your existence. You've been going on, you're dealing with a particular situation that's going on right now, but it doesn't stop you from being who you are, and you never changed who you are.
Right.
So fauna is for those nations that are in that status who don't have any interest in engaging in a federal recognition relationship based upon a lot of the challenges we see when nations do that. You can look at the situation that took place a couple of years with Standing Rock out in North Dakota and South Dakota, where they were running the pipeline through, and see what happens when you're federally recognized, because your lands now become federal trust lands, which means the feds have the authority to do what they want on them.
What was the end result with that?
They ran it through.
They ran it through.
They ran it through, and it spilled, and it spilled.
But
Just like they were free.
But through fauna, we put ourselves in a trust-to-trust relationship with this United States government. So once we put ourselves in that trust-to-trust relationship, we put ourselves in our proper perspective. And now the government takes, because this country is nothing but a bunch of trusts and corporations. And so they become very much aware of who we are, and they are taking and listening to what we have to say.
And I would say that's the most powerful thing about fauna. It's giving us an opportunity to actually have respectful dialogue, eye to eye with the U.S. government. You know, and that's very important. We don't want to be spoken to like we're subjects or underneath in our own lands. That's just an improper relationship for anyone to have. You own your house, and someone comes in and starts telling you what you're going to do in your house. That's not how
don't want any condescending dialogue.
Absolutely. We want to talk about what's going on, who we are, and collectively how we're going to address the concerns or issues that we have for our people and for the U.S. people as well.
The U.S. people,
Because
that's huge, right?
Yes.
Inclusive. Of course, take care of your own.
Absolutely.
But the misnomer, correct me if I'm wrong, is that you're exclusive.
We're all here now, and treaties were originally signed between our ancestors and Europeans.
People need to understand that.
Absolutely. Our ancestors were given permission to be in these lands. The issue came, two things. We were too busy fighting amongst ourselves, and the Europeans had different concepts of engagement with land. So they were coming with an understanding, oh, this is our land now. And for our people, no, you can use that space.
We don't believe in ownership.
Yeah.
Point well taken. Ladies and gentlemen, you are watching the Ernest Faison Show. I'm your host, Ernest Faison. You're watching the Ernest Faison Show. I'm your host, Ernest Faison. Had to say that twice because I have some American Indian royalty on my show, and I could not wait to have them on my show. And just imagine, if you could, just what I'm going through, because there's so many questions going on in my mind that I want to ask these prolific gentlemen, and the questions that you would like to know as well. So I hope that I'm going to try to live vicariously through you as I present this information that I'm delivering.
Yeah.
So you told me you had an eventful moment. Oh, go ahead, Sagamore.
Well,
go ahead, Sagamore.
Talking about fauna, it's quite a process. I mean, we've been going through this for quite a while now.
Yes, sir.
But we had to do public constructive notices. We've had to form our tribal trust. We had to repatriate our people back into our trust. We're going through a process and it's still ongoing. And basically, this is why we're in proper standing of status with the United States government now. And so they recognize that because they recognize trust. And this is what this whole.
And Sagamore, you have a lot of recognitions. I mean, United Nations. You showed me a lot of declarations. Too many times. You know what I mean? And,
you talk about my family, the heritage. Yes, this government knows who my family was, and from the day that we first sent information to Washington.
And you told me along your bloodline. Let me get it right now. One of your ancestors was George Washington's bodyguard.
Yeah, that was Simeon Simon. Yes,
Simeon Simon.
Right.
That's incredible.
Basically, he's on a bicentennial coin in the town of Griswold, Connecticut. And
you showed me, and I held in my possession the bicentennial coin.
Right.
Which,
Yes.
I mean, how many people in the world get the opportunity to actually touch something like this? So I just wanted to extend to the point that my humility with that as we move forward. I understand you had a very, very interesting. Both of you gentlemen had a very, very interesting trip to the IRS.
Oh yeah. Yesterday just so once again, as the Sagamore alluded, with the formation of fauna, with the status that our tribes are in, what we've come to realize is that we actually fall under the constitutional designation of an Indian not taxed.
Right.
And these were Indians at the time when they formed the Constitution who were still involved with their own nations. If they were engaging with the European society, it was because they bumped into each other hunting or they needed to come into town. So they were engaging when they had to, but they weren't giving up any relationship with their actual tribe. So that was the conversation we were having with the IRS yesterday, and this comes out of ongoing dialogue with the Social Security Administration, with the U.S. Census Bureau. So just going through the process, like the Sagamore was saying, of letting them know that we know who we are.
We're not required.
We know that they know who we are, and how do we move through this process in a manner that's lawful and that is effective in terms of what they need to do.
And it's like pulling teeth. I mean, we've engaged the Social Security Department, for instance, because we do not have to have Social Security numbers to do business with banks. So
wow.
And basically, when we spoke with them, they were aware of everything that we were talking about. And they said, well, we haven't used that information in a year. That's in our archives. We'll get it for you. And then they went up
Seeing and believing.
And they went up to another level. And we haven't heard back from them since.
Right.
But they knew everything we were talking about. See, so we're making them aware that we're aware.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
And what you don't know can hurt you.
Well, absolutely.
That's
And
what you say.
by law, if you don't know it, that's your fault for not knowing it. You should know these things. So,
because we hate to use the terminology "ignorance is bliss."
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as I move forward and continue with this wonderful conversation with you, gentlemen, what is the current state of the American Indian, in your opinion, in 2 or 3 minutes or less?
Sure. Go ahead.
I think he's colonized and dominated right now. I don't know how else to put it. I think that there is hope, though, based upon the work that we're involved in, and that's not being arrogant or prideful. That's just looking at the impact that we've been having and the progress we've been able to make.
Yeah.
So I would say the American Indian right now is colonized and dominated, but there is a sliver of hope that is shining.
Well, apparently, because you're on this TV show.
There you go.
And perfect segue for me to slide that in there.
Absolutely.
And you guys, gentlemen, are, to me, beaming examples of what it's like to actually think outside the box and to continue but not to be stuck in quicksand.
Absolutely.
But to keep on running the race.
Absolutely.
And it looked like you got your marathon shoes on because you're going to be in this thing until he takes you away from you.
There you go.
And some of the biggest drawbacks are amongst our own people. And, it's...
Crabs in a bucket.
It's, yes. Right.
Crabs in a bucket.
Crabs in a bucket.
Oh, yeah.
Basically, we're trying to help our people, and I've looked at my people and I'm saying, I've seen every nationality come over into this country and they reach back and they've helped their people. But the American Indian is worried about, not being enough for everyone there, I guess. Yeah. And so this is what we're up. This is what we're up against. And so we don't have an agenda where we're just looking out. Well, we're trying to look out for everyone. And as people find this out, the non-federally recognized tribe, they're starting to come into farm. So we got treaties right now with the King of Hawaii and things of this nature going on.
King Kamehameha, I know all about that. Lived out here for 15 years.
Yeah, we got peace and wellness treaties.
His great-grandson signed treaties with them.
So,
that's outstanding.
But the king tells us that when he first started saying who he was, the Hawaiian government threw him in jail because they thought he was lying. And then they did the research and realized, oh no, he is who he says he is. And he's been moving like we have.
So ladies and gentlemen, you are watching the Ernest Faison Show. PEG RITV has given me the opportunity. I'm so humbled because there's so many people behind the scenes who are making this production possible and giving you guys some education because we don't discriminate. We have anybody on it who has something positive to say about the upkeep of humanity. Absolutely. And I consider both of you gentlemen to be definitely, pardon my pun, a feather in my cap. So Sagamore, I'm reaching here. I know. I feel comfortable with you. So not too comfortable though. But Sagamore, it was told to me, coming out your own mouth, that you didn't even want to become Sagamore.
That's true. This is something that my elders made me the chief. It was Sachem first. I was Sachem, for 7 years before they made me a Sagamore. But I didn't see the vision. Let's put it that way. I came up. I was from the time I was a kid. I was at the powwow, so forth, so on. But I never really participated at the powwows. My older brother did. My younger sister. My older sister, but I was there. I knew everything that was going on, and it just behooved me that my elders saw in me that I was going to be the chief. And so
if I had to say so myself, not to cut you off, you are the prototypical look of a Sagamore. I mean, I'm not quite sure what a Sagamore looks like, but you have that elder statesman, if you will, look to it. And of course, your right-hand man, you know what I mean, he is a plethora. That's going to be Sachem too. He's a plethora of information here.
Oh yes.
He's also a member of the Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. Yes. If I recall correctly, when I was in college, those were the smart guys.
Yeah, we got that reputation about ourselves.
Hey, I got the colors on. I'm not.
That's why I had to in the back. I got to inquire.
Yeah, they wanted me to be a captain. I tell you, pretty boy. I was like, well, no. Homie, don't play that. Like that for real. As we just almost conclude this thing, I just like to say, I'm going to give you about a minute or two, and Sagamore, of course, you about a minute or two, to address my studio audience as to what it is you'd like to disseminate out there.
Absolutely.
Under the sound of my voice right now.
Absolutely. First and foremost, I want to say, especially here on the East Coast, don't get caught up in what a stereotypical Indian is supposed to look like. We don't look like that around here. Our people misclassified as Negroes, blacks, coloreds, all of that good stuff. So when you're in this area, be open to understanding that perhaps you don't know who the person is that you're speaking to. And I think that that's one of the biggest challenges for us, but also the biggest opportunities. We challenge those stereotypes. Because you can't question the Sagamore's heritage or mine, but you can look at us and say, you don't look like Indians. And that allows for a dialogue. So we want to get past that dialogue. Secondly, we want to say that I'm here in Rhode Island.
And keep that thought. But you're trying to say we all don't look alike.
There you go.
No.
There you go. No one ever, can you go to Europe and
nobody
exactly.
all looks alike.
So it doesn't work that way anywhere.
It's really
absolutely. It's colonization. We've all been colonized to believe certain people look a certain way. And if you don't look that way, then you can't be what you're saying you are.
Right.
So that's the first thing. Secondly, if you're here in Rhode Island, get out and enjoy some of the culture. It's such a fantastic place with so many cultural resources, in particular the American Indian.
Right. Sagamore, please grace us with some information.
Ray has actually said it all.
He said it all.
And one of the things, that we neglect in this area is the rich heritage that we have. Don't forget, it started here. It didn't start out west. This is New England. That's old England. And so basically everything you see here, Warwick or Bristol, Rhode Island, is over there in England. Mm-hmm. They weren't too innovative, but basically I find that we do not take and expose to the people of this area our heritage enough, because it's there. Mm-hmm. We just need to take and use
that. And it started more here on the eastern seaboard as opposed to
where it all started. My great-grandfather, the Massasoit, signed the first peace treaty with the Europeans in this country. It lasted 54 years. It wasn't until his son Philip became the Massasoit that he went to war and said, I'm taking back everything you stole from my father. But for 54 years, if it weren't for that peace treaty, they wouldn't have been coming over here, because once he signed that treaty, they could come over wholesale. There were two nations that were responsible for this United States being the United States of America.
Interesting.
One was the Poconoket, and the other was the Rappahannock Nation, or the Powhatan Nation out of Virginia, which is where the first settlement was, Jamestown, Virginia. This is the second, don't forget that.
That's good.
Okay.
So I know time is winding down. I'm going to put you to task to the urban sweat. I need you to find out where that's going to go and what I can do on it. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been watching. I got them smiling. I did good. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching the Ernest Faison Show. I want you all to know that I'm part of the largest race in the world. It's called the human race, and I'm all inclusive, especially to my brothers here as well. I hope that we shed some good light on you. Take care of yourself until next time. God bless. And you will be seeing both of these gentlemen again.